Fields,
That's
Lincoln area.
north, outside of Hartford, right?
Yes, I want to say, I haven't been there in years, but my dad's taken me before. We got Joe, our regular Joe here. I'm gonna, maybe this is the best spot. I might actually move that back. Just wanna make sure. Yeah, I know we're getting a little bit, there's only one person on the call. I just want to make sure that this is in position. Joe. I'm gonna do my best for those who are on the call, position you. Oh, I apologize if you can't see everybody. Early and Kayla. I think that's probably gonna be the best I can. Yeah, let me put this.
So it's not a.
But if they do read us, then it will be clearly play off. We should be up live.
Yeah, that's, I think the only attendance means technically.
Yeah. Well, I haven't pushed record. It is automatically important. Is that what you're?
Yeah, it should be set to automatic record. It's at the top, it should say.
It says recording and transcription.
Yeah.
So I think that that's good. So Wade, if you need to talk, you just talk right through Parker.
That's fine.
You'll keep your notes, but.
Whatever.
All right.
So I'll
They
just
forget.
call the meeting to order. First item of business is approval of the minutes from our last meeting, which was November 13th. Does anyone have any concerns to raise about them? Can I get a motion? to
Make a motion to approve the minutes from last meeting.
Next item is Mike's report.
Yeah, so I'll just take a few minutes. I know we're starting a few minutes behind, just to give some updates where we're at. It's been a busy winter thus far, just getting a few extra programs off the ground. I know I talked last meeting about cheer and basketball being in the works, so numbers have really kind of solidified over the last few weeks. So with youth cheer, I'll start there. We have a pretty robust turnout. We have 10 kids that are in a K1 fundamentals program, 16 that are in our second and third grade program, and then 20 were in our fourth and fifth. So it's been a really great working with the cheer coaches. I'm new to that program, but they've been doing a phenomenal job. I've been here most Sundays, checking in, helping to get them the resources. As I mentioned, we had 3 great sponsors to help out with the cost of bows, t-shirts, and almost $1,000 of brand new equipment. So I know that's incredibly appreciated. The other program that we just got up very recently was the youth basketball program. So travel basketball has already kind of started before the Thanksgiving break. They had some, I have to call them some warm-up practices, just getting kids out on the floor, getting a feel for how many kids we have in the program. Right now, what we have is a total of 4 teams. We have a little bit of a player shared model that's supporting both a third and fourth and a fifth and sixth grade team each on the boys and girls side. So collectively between that program, there's 27 kids, and they're participating in what's now, it used to be a tri-county league. Now it's a quad county league because some other new communities such as Freeport, and there's one other one that just recently, Messalonski's new. So it's a pretty robust league where there's over 73 teams from all of these different communities, about 10 or 12 different ones. So we just got our first scheduled games. They'll start this Saturday. So I'm working with the coaches, so they have all their information. One thing I did want to highlight is we do have a new staff member that's helping out with some coverages for youth sports on Saturday for our youth travel teams, especially for when we have home events. I think I mentioned about how I coach my kids in Winthrop as well. So it was really important to me that in the times that I know I couldn't make it to those games that might be happening at the Memorial School, that we had that proper supervision. So Skylar Whaley He's a native of Winthrop. He actually came to our Skills and Drills program this past Saturday, which was the first day. WHALEY. So he was here to meet all the kids and help work with Coach Wade and Coach Keith. We have over 90 kids, and that's using the travel numbers as well in the program. We have 31 that were in pre-K. Actually, sorry, I have to reframe that. When we had some adjustments, we had 35 kids in pre-K through first grade, 26 in second and third grade, and just about the same number, 25, 26 in the fourth, fifth, and sixth. So big shout out to Keith and Wade. I know that this is a little bit of a new model, having 3 sessions, but what the oldest group that is new, the fourth, fifth, and sixth, in years past, they've just had their travel program. So by building it back in, it gives that quality time with our coaches and their high school athletes. So
It helps to get a base. I think that's
Yes.
great. Thank you guys for supporting that way. It can only help later, right?
I would like to stay as altruistic, really self-serving, right? If we want to be competitive in high school, we gotta do youth.
Right?
right.
Nice job.
Yeah, and really, I've worked in a number of different communities, very similar programs, and this is top notch. It really, really is. And I don't think people realize how lucky they are to have Wade, to have Keith, and all of those who are just invested in the program, the kids. They just do a phenomenal job. So thank you guys. So that's underway. That goes all the way until about February 7th. So as Wayne knows, even with high school, it's gotta get into the dog days of winter pretty early, but you just lock in and try to have as much fun along the way as you can. So youth side, what's coming up is we do have youth wrestling that's going to be taking place. That's likely going to start at the end of January, early February. Still working on some details there with the coaches of last year. So hoping to have some more information during the next couple of weeks. But we also have a number of different adult activities, both that are, relatively established, some are new. We have adult basketball, which is a pickup group. There's 19 people who are formally registered in that program. That takes place here at Monmouth Academy every Sunday, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Their registration has been streamlined just as our youth program has. So again, if there's no money handled in the field, all informed consent forms are taken care of electronically. And Carrie Simpson's done a really, really great job helping to be kind of a lead for that. We just started adult volleyball, not this past Sunday, but the Sunday before. So if you're thinking about dates, that would have been November 30th would have been the first day. So there's a growing group with that. There's about 8 to 10 that were here this past Sunday. So I noticed that they were in need of probably some resources. I know that and Wade, I don't know if you would be able to know, how often does that volleyball net get used? I was gonna say, I have some money that I can help
Yeah, it
get some used out.
just we use it a couple times a year for 4-way volleyball, winter carnival. It's fun stuff in school, spring fling, so it doesn't get used a ton, and then our PE doing volleyball, it's like 3 classes.
Okay, because I thought about maybe putting aside just some funds, just because it sounds like they have their own net and they bring one ball, so I figured if there's some extra resources I can give to them just to make their lives easier, more quality space. Happy to do that. So that runs pretty much until mid-March. Similar to basketball. Basketball was a little bit later into mid-April. And we started this new collaboration with Lonnie Steves over in the Winthrop Y. So we've heard that pickleball is of interest to people. So knowing that we do not have always the adequate access in our gym times here, since we do only have the 2 gyms, especially now with youth basketball really starting up, that they run an open gym series at the Winthrop Grade School. So Lonnie has graciously offered that from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Winthrop Grade School on Sundays, they have adult pickleball that goes on there. I stopped in to see Lonnie since it started this past Sunday. I'll be honest, there was no attendees. So I'm just really kind of hoping that those who have been asking for it do take advantage because I do want to be respectful of Lon's time. He's willing to go another week, maybe two, just to try to get more interest.
I shared it on
Yes,
my Facebook page, and I don't, Dennis has put it, Dennis could put it on like the town page and some of that might be helpful.
yeah, so typically I have not checked. It's a good reminder for me. Typically, whatever I post, Dennis reshares, but I would have to go back and just double check
Yeah.
that that's actually the case with this. So it's on our website. It's right kind of front and center. And then utilizing the Facebook group that, or page that we have, and Lonnie's done the same. So again, it's Sundays, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. with the grade school. Encourage you to check it out. And we did also, I was just gonna make mention that thinking ahead to spring and summer for some pickleball opportunities. We had a resident who donated 2 brand new sets for outdoor use, which I'm excited that hopefully, fingers crossed, when we get the new resurfaced court, helping in the rec building, but also looking at the areas such as behind the memorial school, where I know the principal is very interested in the view. They use new lines for that as well for PE classes, but also for more like passive recreation for people to use. So I purchased some additional equipment that'll be at the ready, such as new paddles and indoor and outdoor balls. So it's ready to go come spring. So that was a really gracious donation that we got this past week. And so there's always things on the horizon, but those will be other agenda items, I'm sure, in future meetings here. Also, happy to take any questions too, that people have.
In the business is care reports. I don't have any except for the select board's meeting this week, so if we come to a consensus on proposed rules, I can bring that to the select board. Because just a reminder, I think any of the ordinance changes we want to make do have to go before the select board for final approval before they're officially enacted.
Not necessarily ordinance changes, but
Yeah.
any ordinance, any of these A, B, C, Ds.
Yeah.
Passes, and if we want to set up, costs for, parties or events down there. If we want to say no outside residents, all those kind of things. Our suggestion, all those in front of the select board, and they say yay or nay, or go back to the drawing board.
That brings us to the next item, which is discussion of the beach ordinance.
Yes, so, as everybody may recall from our last meeting, when talking about future directions and trying to think about priorities, it was kind of an easy place to land of just thinking about summer 2026 and knowing that this group was really created at its origin to help with the beach ordinances. So I wanted to make sure I passed everybody out a copy if you didn't have one. It was sent out as a digital copy as well, so if you have it on your computer, if it's look there. You got one? Yeah, awesome. So we're back, we're going back into teacher mode here this morning. I do have a few other documents. I'm gonna ask in the typical teacher form, don't read ahead. That are just kind of like some supporting documents that we'll get to, because I do think that this is going to be a couple phases of conversation. The first one, of course, is just reviewing the ordinances, which is really going to help, I think, create the structure for how this beach is looking to be managed. That's a separate conversation before thinking about exact programs and services and how that's going to look and feel. Because I do think that there's a lot of legwork that we have to do, and that what my job is challenged to do in making sure that the quality of the space is maintained and we have the right policies and procedures in place. So I think that tonight is really just, again, looking through the ordinance, keeping notes, maybe even having some constructive questions that we can talk with the select board about. Maybe there's even amendments that we want to make. So does everybody have a copy? Just want to make sure I got that out there. What I'm going to give you right now, so you have a copy of, is an example of there's a beach pass application but also a beach event reservation form, so like a rental group. These are used from the town of Reedfield. So I'm gonna let you just take one and pass it on, and I'll start the other from the opposite side. Just so, if you remember what Justin was talking with us about in our first meeting, he and I are really gonna be working to build out the appendices at the back, which is gonna be more reflective of why I'm giving you those forms, so we have something referred to. But we're gonna work our way to those documents. So what I think would be appropriate, and this has kind of just been my mentality of it, I hope that most had a chance to read through. I'm going to treat this as if maybe we haven't all had a chance to do so. So my goal is to try to go through this really kind of line by line and be able to allow space for notes, questions as we go. I certainly have my own. And our goal, I don't think at the end of the evening is we have to come away with a formal recommendation quite yet. But I think this is a great time, being early December, knowing that planning for summer really starts a month, 2 months, at least for me, especially when thinking about some new infrastructure that might take place. So I figure we'll just kind of hop in and go through it. And I'm gonna say, feel free to pause and let me know what questions or things that you have for me. So if we just start right off the bat with the general provisions, this ordinance shall be known and be cited as the town beach ordinance. It will be referred to herein as this ordinance. The purpose of this ordinance is to provide for the enjoyment, health, welfare, and safety of all persons using the town beach. To provide a means of maintenance, operation, and protection of the town beach, and to provide a family-oriented atmosphere for lawful users of the town beach. Town of Monmouth is further committed to maintaining accepted environmental standards to preserve the ecological quality of the town beach and waterways for future generations. So pretty straightforward. That's why I take it.
Are there set environmental standards established for a beach this nature? I guess I don't know if the state of Maine has any.
Yeah, it's like all of
Yeah.
the lakes,
Okay,
and it's kind of twofold, the lakes and then what in part of the lake in this region too, so
okay.
can't,
Like shoreland zoning.
yeah, sure, so can't dig things up and add sand. Can't do a lot of changes right
Okay,
on the edge of the water, so to speak.
Right. And I'm still growing my knowledge base, similar to the question that you just mentioned too, and thinking about the watershed district, and even something as simple as when you do special events, like certain chemicals that can or cannot go into the water.
Right.
You know, that can be considered invasive. But that will actually be, I'm making a note of that, even though it might not influence this ordinance per se, but it does help me to at least, as when I think about when we build out future information about the beach and the water that it rests on, it'd be really great to be able to have a section on there that I can utilize those who are involved in the watershed to say, like, these are actually the standards that are both state mandated, but then also pertaining to this specific body of water.
and it might come in handy when you think of things in the future, events or anything that can happen
Yeah,
there, so it's
absolutely.
good to have something like that handy.
Yeah, no, I'm
Not necessarily independent.
Their own location and that, all that, but it's making giant changes to the shore. That, like if someone came to us and said, we want it to have more of a sandy entrance. Sorry.
Yeah, right.
You know? So those are the kinds of things that we can
Okay,
kind of has to stay the way that it is.
yep, I didn't know if there's anything beach specific for the use of for recreational use. If it falls along shoreline zoning, then that's, I assume it's.
Yeah, and I think right now I just have it as a
Yeah.
great earmarked piece of the conversation, especially again, as I build out more information. on that specific aspect. So that's a great point, Travis. Thank you. So looking at some of the definitions that are outlined in this ordinance, again, this is where eventually we will look at some of these templated documents, which will definitely be helpful. And I think it's worth mentioning, and I don't mind mentioning it, that these ordinances are mirroring a lot of what the town of Reedfield does for their beach. So not only for what was passed in here, but also these documents. That's why I'm using those as our templates. So at least have some more building understanding. It can be exactly what they have, and we just use our own version of information, or it can look different. So looking at some of the definitions, as we're going to talk about, beach pass, any pass issued by the town of Monmouth granting access to the town beach. Beach passes may be issued for different user groups and for different periods of time. So one thing I'm just going to earmark within beach pass, and we'll talk about it because it's in this templated, is be thinking about who this beach is intended to be used by. There are some towns that say this is only for Monmouth or specific town residents. So then in that case, it could be just Monmouth residents, or we can say it's open for Monmouth and non-residents, but it'll make sense of how those structures can work in one lane versus another. So that's where beach pass will come into play when thinking about application processes. Emergency shall be defined to mean any event which threatens to or actually inflicts damage to people or property in which requires immediate action to mitigate, prevent, control, or contain. And I'll tell you that I have old copies left from Lisa that outlines all of the SOPs around the beach, everything from waterfront staff, beach attendants, etc. So those will be things that I'll eventually look to bring into the conversation depending on what direction we head as a group. So that'll be all part of the emergency protocols. Town beach, as referenced in this ordinance, shall mean the property as a whole, identified as map 51 and lot 7 in the town of Monmouth tax maps, consisting of approximately 2.9 acres of land and accompanying water frontage. And I don't want to butcher the pronunciation. Is it Coachnaw? Cottanawagan. I knew I was going to butcher it. Cottanawagan. Cottanawagan. I'm caught in the wagon. Cottanawagan. Right, including the traditional beach area, recreational areas, swimming area, parking areas, physical infrastructure, and undeveloped areas of the premises, excluding the boat launch facilities, and parking areas. So a lot of those recreational areas, of course, we have the playground down there. We have the boathouse that houses all the lifeguard gear, and our bathhouses. So those will be all, and our green spaces.
And the basketball.
Yes, which I'm looking to hopefully get resurfaced tomorrow. Non-recreational use means any use or activity that is not directly related to recreation or includes a component not directly related to recreation. This includes, but is not limited to, commercial activities, sales, solicitation, petitioning, and political activity. And then the last term is users, any individuals permitted to use the town beach through a valid beach pass. So those are just some of the definitions. Are there any questions, comments, feedback on those? Yeah, this is probably pretty familiar. For those who've read it or followed the beach ordinances last year. All right, moving on to administration. Town manager shall delegate the day-to-day responsibilities pertaining to maintenance, operation, and general stewardship of the town beach. The town staff shall assist with the maintenance and operation of the town beach as appropriate, given their respective roles and responsibilities. The town manager may propose to select board revisions of this ordinance and any rules and regulations subsequently adopted by the select board pursuant to this ordinance to ensure enjoyment, health, welfare, and the safety of all persons using the town beach, as well as the stewardship of the town beach property. Part B. The select board shall adopt beach rules, regulations, and fees not consistent with this ordinance to specifically regulate the use of the town beach. These rules and regulations consistent with the ordinance shall be posted in a manner reasonably notifying town beach users of the rules and regulations and shall have the full force and effect of the law. Any duly adopted rules or regulations shall be included as appendices to this ordinance. So as you've been down at the beach, if you look outside the bathhouse, there are those posted rules. Again, very similar to what the town of Reedfield has. So any rules that we would ever amend or update, we would just give as recommendations that would most likely be, Kayla, you can correct me. Would it need to get select board approval or would we be able to, okay. It's good, it's just good for me also.
You would tell,
We'd have to
tell the town manager,
Okay,
put it on the agenda, and then it would get on the agenda, and
Right.
then probably the select would want a member of our group to be there to kind of support Kayla and answer any questions.
right,
And when we were making the most recommendations, so it go before them, and if they didn't have any questions after they read it, basically they get that information beforehand, and then they look through it and decide, does anybody have any questions or whatever, and then it's
right.
approved.
No, and I appreciate just understanding that that
The
is the
process.
process. And believe me, beach rules are gonna be something that we'll dive into as its own category.
Yeah.
Because I know that there's feedback that I get about specific rules and maybe not fully understanding why certain rules are framed certain ways. So I know that will probably be a point that we'll just want to make sure that the rules are where we want. So looking at beach use, this is where we start getting into some of the meats and potatoes a little bit. So beach use, point A, unless otherwise specified, use of the town beach is limited to Monmouth residents and non-resident taxpayers and their accompanied guests with a valid and displayed beach pass, and to non-residents and their accompanying guests with a valid and displayed beach pass. Point B, annual beach passes shall be free to documented Monmouth residents and non-resident taxpayers. Non-residents are not guaranteed a beach pass and shall be assessed a fee. Beach passes shall be available at the town office and from beach staff when present. Users not covered by an annual beach pass shall be required to have a guest pass. One thing I want to just make note here, and we'll jump back, but I just again want to place these thought areas for thought processes. I did talk with the town of Reedfield today and asked about physical beach passes. They started off initially, if I heard them correctly, having a separate pass. That became incredibly cumbersome for the town office, especially knowing that the majority of people, you're a town resident, you're a tax-paying resident, whether you're full-time or seasonal, you have your dump pass, that decal that's on your car.
Mhm.
They moved to that system to say that if you come and you show up at the beach, if they have a beach attendant that's checking you in, if they see that that decal is there, you're good. Question, of course, I posed was, and it's the same thing with my wife and I got our town sticker for our dump pass on my car, but she doesn't. So what is, the policy and protocol? At that point, it is that they check a driver's license or, they mentioned vehicle registration, but I think having form of residency that proves it otherwise, if that decal is not present,
And
does a lot for streamlining.
what they do, don't. Get that, I was gonna say that.
Transportation back.
Other, because I usually get yelled at for saying that. And we could, when they print new ones, if we would have, we could make it a transfer station / beach pass as well. And then it would kind of cover both things.
Right.
So, and then when they usually come out in their cars, or you go in and get them.
Right.
If you say, my registration's in November, and if they don't have, I haven't registered. Oops.
Public record now, so.
You
Watch out.
Did you? And,
Moving on.
it just popped into my head. And so if they haven't gotten the new stickers, you just have to make a plan for them.
Right. So I just want to make mention of that, and doing some additional research, or again, like, whatever we move forward as a group, I'm trying to think about what is the easiest
So,
for residency, for those who are looking to use it as residents, maybe even not, but also our staff. And what just streamlines a lot. One of the things that I'll probably just have to look into a little bit more is if you are non-resident and you do purchase a guest pass, whether that's an annual, daily, weekly, whatever version that they have, is figuring out what that form of proof would be. Maybe it is
A little card or something.
it might be another sticker that's a different color around, and the beach attendants, whoever staff might be at the beach, know to look for that. But we'll be able to figure that out. I just wanted to make sure I made that.
Going back up to A,
Yeah,
it starts off by saying residents, and then it says non-resident taxpayers. Then down below, it says non-residents.
Well, because we
Is that
have
still-
the option as a group to say that non-residents can go to the town office.
Well,
There's two different types of non-residents, so people who own land, and
Right.
have to pay taxes on it, they
Right.
are.
I didn't know if that should say non-resident taxpayers on that second piece.
No, it's just that giving us the option of if we want to let someone that, maybe someone from Sabatis comes up here with their grandkids every day.
Because if they pay taxes, I wouldn't have. to-
Well, they pay taxes, yes, but if they're a non-resident,
Yeah.
and they just want to come and use the beach, then they're a non-resident.
I think if we want to keep it as non-resident, we want to identify as a non-resident who has purchased.
It's a non-resident
Well,
that would
what's
purchase a pass.
It's just, I guess the way it's just wordsmithed and written, it says it's limited to non residents and non-resident taxpayers and their accompanying guests.
So what would happen is if you own land and not
No.
pay taxes on it, you can just go to town office and get
Right.
it, you
Yeah.
can automatically get it, you get your pass.
I think
But then down below, they
Yeah.
don't,
what they're saying with a valid and displayed pass, those people would have. And
to,
to non-residents and their accompanying guests with a valid and displayed pass, so they would, if we required them to have one, they're either,
Right.
they can either come.
Yeah.
And or not come in, because we can decide that too.
Yeah.
We can say, no, sorry. And then they would have to go
Right.
and get some sort of pass or a day pass or whatever.
It probably should have said non-taxing non-residents for that section of the line. I don't know if we're allowed to edit this section of the ordinance. I believe we can only edit what's in the
We can
appendix.
only edit, we can't go ahead and
Yeah.
go right on the taxpayers.
right.
But
But there's
that's
still a
what
lot of
it
space
means.
for us all.
right,
Like-
right.
Right, and I'll definitely be the one that helps spearhead like how that all gets translated. And how a Monmouth resident and a non-resident reads what their expectations are. But that's a great question. I'm glad you asked it. When I read it too, I thought the same thing.
If you look at, you go to refill pass application, see it says guest passes are required for those who do not have a resident or non-resident. So that's kind of how it goes.
I'm learning as I go too, so I appreciate all the clarification on it. Moving on to section C, if we're prepared to do so. Just looking at beach passes shall be for the following categories: annual, issued to only Monmouth resident and non-resident taxpayer households, valid for the entire year following issuance. With 2, weekly is guest pass valid for 7 days, including the day of issuance. 3, daily, which is a guest pass valid for the day of issuance, and then 0.4 is an event guest pass valid for the duration of the event. Now, again, would be a lot more related to like a rental, which is definitely a lot of opportunities to utilize for. One of the things I was curious, just as my own questions I made a note on is, so when it's valid for the entire year, it says that the day in which it was issued, valid for the entire year following issuance. So if somebody gets it in August, say 2026, it would be valid until August 2027.
Same way like your registrations.
And that's for residents or taxpayers.
Okay.
If they move and they still have a sticker on the car,
Right. There's one of the things I'm just trying to think about. And again, it's not meant to be dissected tonight, but just so you kind of know where my mind is at is the tracking of all this so that if somebody gets a guest pass at a unique time where there is over,
Well, that would be a guest pass. A guest pass
Right.
is limited for 7 days, a day, for an afternoon. So those would have specific days.
right,
Your annual ones are your annual.
right. Well, even when we have, even if it's a weekly, like take a weekly pass, daily one might be a little bit easier because it's just a little kind of thing. But again, I'm just thinking about
You
like,
know how they do the camp, when you go camping and they put the thing in the window that hangs off your mirror? And it
Right.
says, you know, you're here from 8/1/25 to 8/9/25.
Right.
Well, I used to pass for first season.
Right.
If I buy a 20, if I, my annual pass, I give for the 2026 season, I'll give you another one for the 2027 season. So if I get my annual pass on August 20th, well, Town Beach is only open until September 15th.
right, so you're gonna have to buy it.
Yeah, so then I might get another one next year anyway.
Okay,
You know, because I kind of hear that, I think the answer is only good for seasons issue.
right,
You know what I mean? So it doesn't matter if it's not 12 calendar months, it's good for it. It's good for the season.
right, and I think
It's a seasonal operation, right? Town Beach is a seasonal operation. So, although the town beach is technically open year round, but even still, but the price for sure, but I think that for this,
There's specified on the next page, June 15th to September 15th.
yeah, so I know the town beach is trying to be the swimming goes at tonight.
yeah, and it's just important for me when thinking about if staff's out there, and how they,
Right.
what mechanisms do they need to be
Well,
looking for
I
and
think that's.
make it as easy as possible.
Come up with. To think about what works.
Right. Right.
But so like in the back, D, when we collaborate for the town beach pass application, we can identify what that application is gonna say.
Yeah.
And just specifically outline is valid for 2026 season, June 15th.
Right.
Right. Right. All good points. Like I said, I'm still learning as I go too.
Well, it's just a way, because the dump passes say 25, 26.
Right.
That's why the question is valid, because we really can't use that mode of operation. We want it to be specific, because that leaves
Right.
a lot of gray areas for people.
Right.
That,
But there was a couple of years ago, they had separate stickers. They got the first time they did the town beach, it was like a blue sticker with a date, I mean, I was not really in. I never put it on the car, I remember I kept it in my car, so I could show it. Right, and we had the beach attendant sitting there, and like, if you didn't have it on your car, you have to show you, like,
Is that Cogan funds?
yeah, we know Sean Cogan was the beach attendant, sat there all day, every day, checking IDs. Right, but we had a separate sticker, so I don't know.
that won't be a problem, whatever we decide, the select board really wants to have some.
The dump stickers are good for the town of Wales too.
Yes, Wales, they can.
Yeah. So if a Wales resident, then technically they have dump.
Right.
And that's why it's.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, I think there should be a different sticker
We need
to
to.
the town beach. You gotta put 2 stickers in your car, but I mean, the dump.
Or, you know, we have to give her a hanging plaque or something they put on their dashboard or put on their visor, you know.
Well, I mean, I think if we open the beach up to non-residents, that's not an issue. But if we keep it from all residents only, non-residents taxpayers, and using the dump stickers, so I don't think that's what we do that, but.
We'll be not visiting with
All right,
over
good.
here.
That's good to know. I'm glad you brought that up. I wouldn't even known that. All right, so moving on to section D, all users of the town beach must follow the provisions of this ordinance from any beach rules or regulations adopted by the select board. E, use of the town beach for special events or activities shall require a town beach event permit to avoid conflicting uses, conflicting schedules, and overuse of the town beach. Town beach event permits, if approved, shall be issued by the town manager. And so I figured that's gonna be something I'd be working pretty closely with Justin to rectify, I'm sure he doesn't want it all going to him.
Basically, what it's the reservation calendar would need to be, and they would have to go into the town office and fill out an event thing and that.
Right. And that will be again why I think these forms are really helpful.
And when it
to look
says
at.
town manager, it means our committee making a recommendation and then going back to where it says the staff at the town office will do what is needed to support that. So basically, that's what it says. They'll support it. In any way they need it. So you won't have to be down there or one of us saying, sorry, you didn't reserve that these people did.
Right. Right. Yeah. So I mean, this is all again to, as a, just a note I'll put out there is like helpful to have a website registration system that they do where people can actually go in, like I can populate. I don't know if it'd be this form per se, but all similar fields, kind of similar to how Dennis does it at Compson Hall, when people want to utilize Compson Hall or a section of the room. Say, hey, this is what the fee structure is for the space, the type of event. What are you requesting potentially on behalf of the town? So you pick a birthday party, they're probably gonna want to use the water, right? All right, well, if we're gonna issue a lifeguard, there's gonna be a lifeguarding fee, and that's assuming we have the staff to do that. But that would be something that would help outline, actually, it's only the beach town app. This would be the event registration form, again, it helps outline a lot of those stipulations. Very similar, I've done that very similarly at summer camps. It's all submitted for the contract and it goes where you need it to be. Let's see, point F, town sponsored activities or events shall have priority for the use of all facilities over general recreation use or events. Leaves a lot of space for us as far as that there are some things unique to this community that we might like to do. I know I mentioned about the possibility of a concert series and I'm still open to the ideas of something like that. Maybe kind of pilot it at least this year. But that would be something I'll follow with that. G, non-recreational use of the town beach is prohibited outside of designated non-recreation use areas. Determination of what constitutes non-recreational use and any limits to these uses, including the designation of non-recreational use areas, shall be at the discretion of the beach staff or the town manager. So I recognize that again, kind of what you were talking about, Darlene, my role is titled in there, but reflective, I think, of the enforcement would be
Right.
that.
Like if they had, like somebody was running skateboards around down in the parking.
Right. Right. All right, so moving on to page 3, halfway home. All right, town beach season stay. Use of the town beach outside of these season days and times is prohibited unless otherwise specified. And I know I was talking with Justin a little bit and think about like, those who ice fish and it's like, what are the provisions there? I'm not as privy as to how it's been utilized in the past or if there's issues, but like those are good things that if this community of folks in this group have knowledge, that'd be great for us to share every time.
Monitors the danger.
It's kind of what I
think we would at least want to set rules and standards that relate to, ice fishing brings certain activities and stuff.
right.
We need to make sure that that's, at least identified what the expectations are, why you're using it.
Yeah, and I would
It's
be,
kind of like the dogs on the beach kind of thing. Same
Yeah.
idea.
Something like that.
The dogs on the beach, maybe, open cans in the beach area or things like. Just, I think that's what kind
It's
of,
like carrying your trash out when you're done.
yeah,
Just
carrying your trash out.
things of that nature.
yep, absolutely. And this is where it also is nice to include different departments, whether it be police and public works, as far as like what their expectations outside of RAC is as facilitators, if you will, of the beach. B, use of the beach parking area shall be limited to vehicles displaying valid beach passes. between June 15th and September 15th, between the hours of 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. I think there's a lot of area of opportunity for growth in this one. The beach parking lot shall be open for general parking, meaning no beach pass required outside of these dates and times. All other parking provisions shall be established by the select board under the specified title. C, access to the town beach from any vessel is prohibited. D, snowmobile and other recreational vehicle access shall be allowed on the marked trails only, and only when the ground is solidly frozen. I've never, or sorry, is anyone familiar with the marked trail areas of where that is at the beach?
No, there's no marked trail down there.
It's just, they probably see open area and they just see it.
Most people utilize the launch, but sometimes people will come down over where the beach access point
Right.
is, and things are frozen. I don't know.
But they don't usually because of the way that, the way that kind of drops off at that edge. The launch is usually a better area.
Yeah.
So they don't-
I think it's good to be just, if people were going over it when it was muddy, you could say, hey, it says solid ground.
Right.
You know, it's pretty common sense.
Right.
Ignore that.
Right. So moving on to, I guess, number 6, beach safety. Point A, persons using the town beach shall do so at their own risk. While beach staff may be trained in CPR, lifeguarding, and other relevant skills, beach users should always assume that no trained staff are present or available. B, water testing at the town beach may be conducted at the discretion of beach staff or the town manager. C, the town manager or in the town manager's absence, the town emergencies management director or beach staff shall have the authority to close the town beach in an emergency in order to protect public health and safety. The order may be issued verbally or in writing, which shall be as narrow or broad as is necessary to protect the public. Situations where beach closure may be warranted also include, but are not limited to, any time a town, county, or state disaster proclamation is in effect, during times of potential or actual thunder and lightning, and when water pollution is excessive, closures may be limited or partial. Any questions on the beach safety? Cool. 7, enforcement. This ordinance may be enforced by any duly authorized law enforcement officer, as well as beach staff, the town manager or designee, and other individuals specifically designated by the select board. A short section. 8, moving on to penalty. Any person found in violation of this ordinance or subsequently adopted rules or regulations by any individual identified in section 7 of this ordinance may be subject to a beach pass revocation. Revocation may be temporary or full term of the beach pass. A fine payable to the town of Monmouth. Each individual occurrence or infraction shall be considered a separate violation. B, first time and minor violations of this ordinances or subsequently adopted rules or regulations not involving any property damage, injury, or cost to the town of Monmouth shall be enforced by means of a verbal or written warning issued by beach staff or the town manager or designee. C, second and subsequent violations may be subject to a fine in amount established by the select board, but no more than $100 per violation. I did make a note in there, and it is kind of covered in one of the points before, but just like if the damage is above $100, I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't like we had a cap. You know, that if something is reflective of the damage caused, then that's what's going to be
Right,
issued.
because it says that in B.
Right. Right. It took me a moment the first time I read that to go back and be like, okay, yes, it is specified in the plan. Reading it secondarily, just want to make sure I pointed that out. D, any violations that result in any property damage, injury to others, or results in any expenses to the town as a result of the violation shall be subject to a fine, payment of actual costs, there you go, and damages, and may be subject to the issuance of a summons for such violations. The summons will notify the alleged violator of the date, time, and court in which the notice of violation will be heard. If the town prevails in any enforcement action under this section, it will be entitled to an award of its costs of prosecution, including its reasonable attorney fees, in addition to penalties and any cost repair or replacement resulting from the violation. Any questions on that section before we move on to the meeting?
No, we just, I think with damage in the past, they have never really any way of enforcing it.
No recourse. It's a lot easier, I think, with the structure in place of knowing who has evidence of passes, whether it's by being virtual of a resident or a non-resident, that we have at least the ability that I trust that if there was damages and there's witnesses, staff involved, and they're able to say, I got John Smith, got their information, putting a police report in there. You have the steps in place to at least work towards that recourse of
Yeah.
evidence or damage and remuneration for that.
Are there any cameras for after hours that have been enabled in the parking lot?
There could be,
Yeah, there might be.
because there is, power down there, and there could be Wi-Fi put in from the summertime. So, and you could do something, let's say, a simple safety or something like that, just for the season. We would take that, that would be the cost that we would take on, but.
Yep. I'm sure we want to approach it lightly, given it being a beach and people
Right.
fire during the summer.
Sure.
Are vulnerable and it's sensitive. like that.
Well, what the biggest problem we've had is with like the lifeguard chairs and things like that. You go down in the morning, they're out in the lake and- or destroyed and things like that. I'm sure you've heard
It's mostly for night.
the stories part of almost the benefit, but
Right,
yeah,
right,
most of the time, the kids know that it's their place to go and enjoy, so it's not necessarily someone from around here, but
right.
they have had issues in the past.
But it's all a fair question, I think where I sit, having not gone through a full summer, kind of ask those questions like, what is, first of all, like some of the data and metrics of the speech, such as like, how many people use it in a typical season? What are the days in which it's the highest level of use? Can't always predict when the weather is going to be extremely hot, extremely rainy, and that will limit some scopes, but at the same time, what are common violations? When does that typically happen? Do we find that it's the morning of and people come back the next day? Or is it something benign such as past summer we had some teenagers who were, riding and skidding their tires like in the pavilion area, and like that beach attendant was like right there to say, hey, look around you, we got kids, like,
Shoving on the dogs,
right,
a dog going out there, running,
Diving.
diving.
Heard that.
In that shorts, right, in the elevator.
right. So I just make that,
son's a handful, I'm trying.
maybe we should hold off on cameras right now. No.
Waits here.
So, but those are the types of things when I think about like year one and thinking about, we want to get it right, right?
Right.
Like we want to do everything that we can right the first time as much as possible and limit any perceived or forecasting mistakes that could be out there. But the reality is that like, I think there's a lot of space to grow, both with again, like really understanding how the speech is being utilized for everything that's great about it and how people are using it. But then also too, as we're mentioning, like there are things that come with public spaces that, we're probably gonna be sitting here in a year, 2 years from now saying like, we might have to change some things because
Right, and that's why they.
inappropriate uses of turn factions.
Here. So
Right,
that we could go and adjust the appendices so that if it reaches a point where we just can't have non-resident use because we don't have the space, then go back and change that appendix.
right.
So,
All right, so we just have this last section and then there's just the appendices. So, I believe we left off with 9, conflicts with other ordinances. Whenever a provision of this ordinance conflicts with or is inconsistent with another provision of this ordinance or any other ordinance, regulation or statute, more restrictive provisions shall apply. 10, severability, the invalidity of any section or provision of this ordinance shall not be held to invalidate any other section or provision of this ordinance. Abrogation, this ordinance repeals and replaces any relevant municipal ordinance, portion thereof, or legislative action previously enacted. And then last section, 12 appendices, the list of dependencies to this ordinance and their content may be amended from time to time by vote of the Monmouth Select Board. A lot. So I think it's, first of all, good for us to all be aware of what has been officially approved by the select board. As we talked about, the real work does align with some of this dependency work, but some overarching questions, because I do, again, think that there's 2 buckets of conversation. One is, again, looking at the management of the beach and how that informs the programs and services in a separate conversation. So we have the opportunity to talk about, and I'm interested to hear from you as an advisory committee to me, as to who gets to use the beach, and how restrictive or how open we want it to be for users. So I think that is a fundamental question to have open conversation for, and let that be the starting point.
So do you want to, for the next time, back, like send out the rules that you currently have? Because I don't think we have those written.
Not in
Print.
there, no. In fact, there's no digital copy
Of that at all.
yet, other than Cassidy, who helped work as a beach attendant. In fact, what I had here, and I'll include it, I just didn't think we're gonna have time for it, is in the month that she worked, I gave her a series of questions and prompts that basically was like, in this time, here's the 2-3 things I want you to focus on, such as, when was the beach being commonly used and by whom? So she was able to categorize families, grandparents, and teenagers. What are some common rule infractions or behavioral redirections needed at the beach? And then other important recommendations. So one of the things that she was noting in here, which again, I'm happy to pass this out, is she said about 50% of the people that she spoke with were non-Monmouth residents. So clearly people who are non-Monmouth residents are using the beach. And I think that, I don't want to speak for anybody, but it seems like that seems to have been a historical implication.
And it hasn't been an issue. Have non-residents use the beach. Always been enough space down there, and it's really hot now. What we used to be able to do also is, let's say that Lewiston or Auburn Rec wants to bring a box of the kids up on a certain afternoon. They would pay to do so. They'd say how many kids and they do so. So there's a lot of ways to let people in and keep control of the situation. So it doesn't have to be except by, I don't know, maybe the thought or some activity, but some of the kids get to come and play. And they know the rules, they're told the rules, and they've had issues with those kids in the past, but then they have their leaders there that aren't supposed to be them in the moment, so.
I think it's good to keep it open to non-residents because small towns is a little different, right? So if we're trying to grow Monmouth, keep it from falling apart, becoming unlivable, and letting other people enjoy our community, because we have to stay small, then that's going to, as we create more and more events, gonna entice people to come to our event. They won't be like, oh, that town sucks, they don't let anyone in. So by even just having it affordable for them. And then for people at other rec programs, I think if we offered them a discount, that, like if they're coming from the Boys and Girls Club, it's usually families that don't have a lot of extra funding. So if we can like have a program for them so they can enjoy it, that would really show Monmouth as a community that people would want to visit and maybe move to.
Right. So what I just passed around, and I think this is relevant, again, this is the stage setting, I feel a lot of different conversations. I've been digging into a little bit more of the financials of the beach, because I think as fresh eyes to this, it's important for me to articulate a few things. So I was talking with Lori and Justin about just getting like, talk to me about your swim program, because that's what I hear a lot of history about. And what are the actual revenues that they've had? They didn't have a clean copy of digging back in. I just listed what they were below, dating back to 2021. But if you look at 2024 as the most recent actual, there was just over $2,000 in swim lessons. What I really want to point people's attention to is the staff wages. This is before my position was brought into the equation. The first line of $9,965 was the previous rec director on a part-time basis. That $52,000 is all seasonally attributed to the beach. So you can kind of see where I'm going with this, that when I see that, and this, there might have been rentals that I don't know about, but when I see $2,000 against a $53,000 expenditure, it tells me that that is an inordinate amount of money. Not to say that the beach is not worth the investment. It's more that, is there more efficiency to be had? Because again, working in multiple communities, that's an astronomical number there. And so I think it's important for people to understand who might not realize is how much resources went into the beach. And so the creative problem or opportunity, I should say, is for everything that I hear of the history and the emotion that people want so deeply for this beach, how can we capture that while not cutting ourselves short from what this position is really designed to do? From going back to philosophically, if it's senior age, 12 months out of the year, when over half the budget is arguably going to that 3 month out of the year timeframe. Now, there was like 14 plus staff. Some of that $53,000, or the short of it, was for waterfront director, which is about $10,000. But the rest of it was beach staff and beach attendants and lifeguards. So there's obviously the 2025 budget to look at. And when I've been playing with my own numbers, and it's reflective of where my position is now in the mix of things, those funds aren't available. And so when I look at my line as rec director, certain support staff who's helped out with some youth sports stuff, and I've taken both hours worked and forecasted hours, and looking at what are we left with, we're about $14,000 left over. So there's still a healthy amount there. It's just more a matter of us being able to say, again, how can we capture more efficient usages of the beach? And what does that look like? And how do we address both that one bucket of management, and that's where like these things become so important, you know?
And also the discussion about what goes into the beach revenue or what goes into the recreation revenue stays in the recreational revenue versus going into the
Right.
general fund. So there's a couple of different tracks we gotta kind of walk in here. So we have to think about, the beach passes and the beach parties and some of those things subsidizing
Right.
the swim program. Because that's what we really have to call it. We have to call it the swim program, or we have to call it whatever, the summer program, or whatever.
Yeah, it's like nitpick, that's too much, but 4,100 of electricity.
That would probably be attributed to not only so this is not only the town beach area, but also the rec building.
Okay, the rec building. over
Yes,
here.
where my
Okay.
office is
Oh,
housed.
okay.
So this is not just,
Park.
this is not just beach, this is
Yeah,
like
yeah.
overarching rec. Great, I'm glad you brought up that point, Caleb. I would have been
And then the,
asking the same question too. So again, like, I'm happy to dig. Right,
Guard
right, safety
for
purpose.
safety purposes, but
so that's where, I think it does set some scaffolding into knowing that it is a 10, that the dissection of these documents are very important for, again, like, answering that question of like, who is entitled to use the beach and what are the rules that all parties have to play by? If you look at the beach pass application, I'm not familiar with any fee structures currently in place.
there is no fee structure.
Right, so that's where we will work together, that when you look at non-resident pass, Reedville Town, they just up their charge, it's $100 for an annual pass. So like, we can set those rates, and if it might deter some people. Or they might say, hey, you know what, like, I really love this beach, and that brings a lot of value. They might actually be more philanthropic in mind, be like, hey, I want to help contribute, or they just know they can get away with being on.
Plus $60 go to Paulding for the.
Right,
Part of Paulding is $27, but it's $12 for an adult or whatever, and $5 for a kid. So if you take a family of 5 to Paulding, you're looking at spending $60 just to go to Paulding.
right,
So I think like, personally, I think $100 non-resident fee is pretty fair.
right,
Like, you're gonna get daily use of this place for 3 months to take care of your kids. If you're, even for low income families, that's still pretty fair.
right,
And it doesn't exclude beach program, and that's that, or beach program, you can have a non-resident fee to come to the beach program, which could be less for that week, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I still think that's relatively fair. And keeps less, crazy money, no, it's not, dude, if you think about it.
right,
No,
It's less than $1 a day. The 100 days availability.
right.
It's less than $1 a day.
So that's where I'm trying to look at things in a fiscal manner, of like how can I be a good steward to everybody's tax dollars in this? And making it, leaving room to grow, because again, that's where, like, where I arrive to this is in order to pull off beach passes and all this stuff, you need the staff to be able to be there to make sure that those people are validated to use it.
so we need, right,
Right,
the right hand, important to the left hand, so it's. And so we have to set some of those things. It's the
Right.
same with, the event registration. In reality, yes, we love anybody can come there, but
right,
they're
And-
gonna use, you can plug things in over there under that. Under the pavilion and things like that, so,
right.
if they're gonna use it.
So like
And then
my,
there's trash pickup and things like that, so if someone goes down there, and uses it, does a birthday party, and they put all their things. Our guys have to go and clean that up.
Right.
So
right,
to me, they're gonna, that's a reason.
Was the pavilion donated or was that taxpayer dollars?
I'm not
I
sure.
think we built that with some money, somewhere. It was a while ago, but if I remember correctly, we had some funds and then some stuff, and like ties and things like that.
right. So that's when I think about like year one and trying to leave space to work, like creating a North Star to chase a little bit. Because I don't look at it as, well, anything that we do this year is gonna be more than what we did last year. it better be more than what we did last year, right? But with what we have to work with.
Well, and looking at both ways, in terms of having someone maybe do the swim program. Then we're just staffing versus,
What is minimum wage?
Oh, man, I think it's up.
It's not $50, is it?
well, for
Well, the state minimum wage, I believe, is up to
About
15. Federal is what.
So I just did 1465, so just, I know it's a little less than, so if you're looking, I just, my brain kind of skipped ahead, I know I shouldn't, but I was thinking about 14K left over. And I was thinking if we have someone, if you want someone to man the beach during what we say are the open hours from 9 to 9, or whatever the beach hours are, at 9 to 5.
June to
9 to 5, so if you look 9 to 5 is the manned hours at the beach. So that's 8, well, I just did 9 to 9, so I did 12 hours a day for 100 days. It would take
well, you.
1,200 hours.
12 weeks, essentially.
Yeah, you have one person,
Two people.
right, you have one person there, it's gonna be 18K. If you pay them $15 an hour.
I've done the same
So
thing.
it's like, yeah, so maybe. How are you going to, again, how are you gonna monitor the beach becomes, but just one beach attendant, 7 days a week. So 8 hours a day, it's staffed. So then during non-staffed hours, who's ensuring that, where's the enforcement piece come in for the non-staffed hours? So what will that just happen is, every non-resident won't, instead of paying $100, they just show up at 6:30 at night, and that's kind of like, those are evening hours, on peak hours for residents. Right, like you get home from work, on my way, pick up 5 every day. She gets home, hey, want to take the kids out on the beach? Yeah, right, so those are peak hours for residents, so it's like, if we don't have someone there during the peak times, you know what I mean, tracking that, we don't have money to have someone there 12 hours a day.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think we're kind of in a little bit of a pickle this first year as far as monitoring,
I think
tracking.
the ordinance too is 9 to 5. If we change those times, we have to bring it to the voters.
Yeah, it would have to be 9 to 5, which is, and what we can do, and I'm just throwing this out there. I know if people, if we're giving the people the programs that they wanted, we may be able to encourage some people to go down there and sit and be a monitor.
There are some communities that do have volunteers that do it.
Right. There, where you can ask for volunteers. I mean, I go down there and sit. Sit there and listen.
All in favor?
Be a
Good
monitor.
work, everybody.
I'm just saying that we have a lot of options to do for a lot of things. We can get creative when it comes to that.
Right, and so I've done what you were starting to do, Wade, which was, and this is just my own internal document, because it's just ideas right now, it's not like formal, but like I've been going through saying like, if I have close to $14,000, if you contract out the swim program. Well, yes and no, because it's $3,000 for the contract to have the Y come, but we see all the fees. So it's just an upfront cost. We set the fees to make sure that we make that money back, and we can set it that it pays for what would be a lifeguard of hours to just be the general lifeguard. So that for me, that's like, how do we still give a program, but still looking at what I think is an important piece here, which is that monitoring of observation and enforcement, that like I've gone through like so many different situations. Granted, I was using a very different figure, hourly wage, because I just wanted to start higher and then play with the formula as it goes. So you might roll your eyes at me for saying this, but like I was using 20. Which I'm thinking about, like, if you're trying to encourage people to not like blow off hours, it might land in 18 or 16, but I was just using 20 as a figure that I was putting 2 beach attendants. And the reason why was, one, if you put one at the front who's really doing the monitoring, the rule enforcement is really for the other one. And they probably switch roles, take breaks as they need to. And you probably get maybe, if you can, 4 to 6 different people on payroll if you just treat it as a seasonal schedule that I would have to generate. So they're not there every day. But I'll leave it with this, that like, I've been looking at like, what would it be to put 2 beach attendants out there 8 hours a day per day, 7 days a week at $20 an hour? That comes up 26 grand. Right? But then you have to start like adjusting and playing with it from there. I could adjust the hourly rate, but then what does 6 hours look like 7 days a week? That brings it down to 20. 5 hours a week brings it down to 16. Winthrop Y does their town beach typically 12 to 5 when they staff.
Well, and that's, there wasn't a lifeguard on at 9. It wasn't 9 to 5 down at the beach. The lifeguard came on at like 10, 11 or 12.
Trying to focus on the
think-
busy hours.
Yeah, it was came on, I think sometimes it was 12 to 5 or 6. And some, you know, in the summer peak hours, they might have done 12 to 6. And
Right.
in the,
And that's why I say in year one,
yeah, 'cause I think they came earlier, like at 10 or 11.
right? I can't help it. I'm saying this as a Winthrop resident who lives close downtown with beaches and using Cassidy here. Weekends swarmed. And in Winthrop.
Right, in Winthrop, right.
And so part of the question becomes like, is 7 days a week feasible? If it is, we might have to acquiesce to say during the work week, this might be the limited hour stretch.
Right.
So that people know that there's people coming down and checking and making sure that the beach rules are being enforced, or there's nothing unique that needs to be reported, yada, yada. That might be like a 3 to 4 hour a week, or 3 to 4 hour a day thing, but like looking at possibly staffing it.
Yeah.
The full onslaught of 2 full days. Then you can kind of make the numbers fall where they need to a little bit more. So that's where it's interesting for me, again, like trying to be like, man, I really want to get more data and metrics on this.
See. Usage increase around swimming lessons and making it family friendly in that. Part of the issue this summer was that it's language and different things going on down there that people didn't want their kids
Right.
around. So I think it will be busier based on what activities we have on.
Right. Right. So knowing that we're, oh, sorry, go ahead, and we'll probably.
Has there been any discussion at the select board level about if we do enact the fee? On if they're open to that being used just for recreation purposes rather than, I mean, I know we talked about there is no fund currently. So it's all good, it would all go into the general fund unless we said. You know,
We do have a general fund that is journaled as recreation, but there's not, right?
It's-
Right.
But
But it could happen as soon as,
I believe June
well, it'd be June 30th.
Yeah.
July 1st
is the start.
is the start of the new year. So if we want anything like that to happen, which.
I brought it up already.
Yeah, you brought it up. I was there and you talked about it. And we have time to do that so that it impacts the July through of 26.
You reduce a fee too for non-residents who are paying for swim lessons already. You know, like we have to work on that, and that running would have to be included,
Could do
right?
those kind of things. If a non-resident signs there,
Right,
they're gonna be here for maybe 2 weeks.
Yep.
At a camp on the lake.
or have a set fee
Yeah.
for someone, a non-resident.
Yeah.
That is a swim lesson.
Right.
It would be good to get that money going back into.
And see, that's why we can, it's kind of. We're set up at a time that we're creative about it. we can make most of the funds that into the swimming lessons and things like that end up in the.
I'm just thinking if you bring it to the select board's attention and say you have, 14,000 to try to run a beach program for the summer. So, we set up a fee structure and just use that to offset.
Ideally,
Right.
we can't officially.
But that's
Yeah,
not the
so-
way the town, because the town has, it's not.
This has to approve this separate account.
Right.
It'll be on the
It's not
record now.
select board that we have to do, but because the town goes through a voting way to do, anything that changes that way has to be voted on by the voters. So if we change that, it would change for the new fiscal year. And they're all kind of on board with it because they want this to be very clean and.
I just think.
Yeah, I think we're starting the budget process in January. And then we're gonna be working on it for those couple months. There's a lot of people in town who don't understand exactly where the funds and stuff go. So I was talking to one of the seminars about having like an informal section for townspeople. That way they know where we're planning on sending funding. So because we know we're gonna need this money for the beach, and we always have a certain amount in the reserve fund, we can, say we're planning on earmarking it. But, if we know we're gonna be setting up this other account just for us, then it might cause some people to say, for that last, oh, they don't actually need the budget to be increased. So we really want to be careful about how we word it, because if people know that where the money we're raising right now is going into the general fund, they might be like, oh, well, they don't actually need us to say yes to putting more in their budget during the referendum, because they're going to be having their own separate account soon, so they don't want the taxpayers to give them more money. So we just want to make sure we're being very cautious with our words. There have been some very realistic people.
Right.
There are vocal people in the town who are like, we don't want the department to stupid, but so I didn't get everyone else going to be like, we don't want that.
Right. Well, it's 8:26. We're to be super mindful of that. I think where would be important to look at is hold on to these documents.
I was just gonna say, we've kind of all taken, if I can put everybody assignment.
Yeah.
Well, maybe someone's great.
If that makes sense, if we,
Shared
if
document.
right, we can do a shared document. And everybody kind of, think about how you want to see it. And come back maybe with yours all marked up and your suggestions. What you feel good about. So then as a group, we can say, we want to do this, we don't want to do that, those type of things. Put all your thoughts down and then we can have a good working session on those things we need to put together, A, B, C, and D. You don't need D, but,
For the next one, should we focus on one thing to start with? That way we don't run out of time, like the town beach pass is the focus of the next meeting.
Right on the first agenda point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then if we have time, we
And then-
can on the event reservation, but those two things,
So-
was things we look at.
The rules will take longer, so that.
Right.
Can we, you said there was like a document for, should we go down and take a picture of it? Or,
Oh, down at the beach.
yeah,
Yes, I honestly almost did that today because I had Cassidy take a picture of it and I was looking through my folders and I was
Yeah.
like.
and then
yes,
is there a beach event reservation application that exists?
No.
for our town,
Copy
Yeah.
that,
No, nothing.
this is all
copy that you got.
kind of from
The
scratch.
template, yeah, right. But
Yeah.
Monmouth doesn't have one of this.
No,
Okay,
no,
and they
I-
have a beach pass application, either.
Because they've never,
we're
never
spearheading.
done.
But we have a framework to work from. Not saying Refield's perfect, I think they got a really good system going, but like, it helps us to know where to start and build from.
The dollar for everybody to put their stuff in, so then.
They all pay.
Huh?
They all pay.
No.
I
No, they're not all paid. That's why I took a big one.
Like what they received in revenue for their.
I tried to find a verbiage with
Uh,
that.
They've been doing it the last couple of years. I think it's really
Return.
Second. Perfect.
All right.
biggest.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks for any of those folks who stayed on.